black in Hitler's Germany. When people speak of the victims of Nazism, the focus usually falls on the Jewish people, the Roma, or political dissidents. But hidden in the shadows of history was a small community, almost invisible in the official narrative, the Afro-Germans. They were not millions, but they endured the barbarity of the Nazi machine firsthand. They were monitored, marginalized, expelled from schools, forcibly sterilized, and, in some cases, sent to concentration camps. Their very existence was seen as an intolerable anomaly by a regime obsessed with racial purity. And although they represented only a tiny fraction of the population, they were treated as a threat that had to be eradicated. In the Third Reich, the color of one's skin was enough to be branded an enemy of the state. In this new installment of military history, we will uncover their forgotten testimonies.
When the war was going on, it came out that Hitler said that we weren't allowed to study. When Hitler became very powerful, he said that we couldn't go to the sports, where the stadium. We couldn't go to the swimmings, to the swimming halls anymore, and we weren't allowed to study further our education.
It all began after the First World War. Germany lost not only territories, soldiers, and pride, but also its right to control the industrial heart of the nation, the Rhineland. The Treaty of Versailles allowed the victorious powers to occupy the Rhine region, and with them came colonial troops from France. African soldiers, mostly from Senegal, marched through German cities in European uniforms with black skin. For many Germans humiliated by defeat, that presence was doubly painful. It was not only foreign occupation, but also a direct assault on their racial imagination. The unions of these soldiers with local women gave rise to a group German racism was never prepared to accept, the so-called Rhineland bastards. The children born of these unions came to embody an existential threat to extreme nationalism. They were not simply children of war. According to Nazi ideology, they were a biological stain on the body of the nation. For Hitler and his followers, these children represented living proof of a Germany defeated and corrupted. Their very existence undermined the myth of Aryan purity from within. And soon, their eradication became state policy.
You! Stop! Halt! Now!
Stop, Lena. We have to stop. Stay here.
Both of you! You're bastards.
My daughter.
You're Negro bastard.
In Mein Kampf, Hitler referred to these children with contempt, accusing France of contaminating German blood. That obsession later became a silent and sinister plan, a program of forced sterilization carried out in secret by the Nazi regime. Between 1935 and 1937, more than 400 Afro-Germans, most of them teenagers, were subjected to medical procedures to prevent them from reproducing. Many were deceived or coerced into appearing at clinics under threat of reprisals. Others simply disappeared into the bureaucratic machinery of the Third Reich. Anyone who lacked papers proving they had already been sterilized had to face the full force of Nazi authority.
Papers.
Yes.
Quickly!
Yes. Here.
My papers.
Yes.
Tell me, what was in your heart when you were shaming Germany?
I have never shamed Germany.
Our papers.
You are Germany's disgrace.
Contempt was the rule. Despite countless cruel encounters, Afro-Germans were never publicly acknowledged as victims. This crime, buried in the pages of history, was a grim rehearsal for what would come later. The Nazi obsession with biology, blood, and eugenics was already in motion before the war began. And the Rhineland children were its first test.
You are lost, forgotten what it is to be a good German woman. So then, how do you become a good German woman? You lose your monkey.
What?
We take her or we take you.
Most of these young people lived in fear and marginalization. Expelled from schools, condemned to unemployment, watched by the Gestapo, they became ghosts in a nation that refused to see them. Some survived, others vanished without a trace, but all shared the same fate, condemned for being born with skin that defied the racial delusion of Nazism. Yet there were moments when the lure of parades and Hitler's propaganda made the lesson harder to accept.
Du willst ins Jungvolk. Ich dachte, du wüsstest, dass du nicht ins Jungvolk darfst, also nicht Arier bist. Nicht-Ariern ist es untersagt, der Hitlerjugend beizutreten, so sind die Gesetze.
Aber ich bin doch Deutscher. Meine Mutter hat gesagt, dass ich Deutscher bin. So wie alle anderen.
Wie alle anderen. Schau dich doch einmal an.
In 1930s, Hamburg, a dark-skinned boy, was captivated by the Hitler Youth. His name was Hans-Jürgen Massaquoi. He was the son of a Liberian diplomat and a German working-class nurse. His father had returned to Africa, and Hans grew up alone with his mother in a small apartment in a working-class neighborhood. He was, in every sense, a German child, except his skin told a different story. Like so many of his friends, he longed to be part of something greater. He watched his classmates march proudly in formation, wearing polished uniforms, beating drums, shouting slogans. What to others seemed the beginning of fanaticism, for Hans was the innocent dream of belonging. In his young eyes, the Hitler Youth was not a symbol of horror, but the club of those who fit in. At only 7 years old, he desperately wanted to join, but reality was brutal.
Ich will für meinen Sohn die Mitgliedschaft beantragen. Hans-Jürgen will es unbedingt.
Falls Sie es noch nicht gemerkt haben, Frau Beetz, weise ich Sie jetzt darauf hin, dass es für Ihren Sohn keinen Platz gibt.
Walter, was heißt das?
Wir werden diesen Jungen nicht dulden.
Aber mein Sohn ist doch in Hamburg geboren. Ich bin seine Mutter. Sie kennen ihn doch sehr gut, Walter.
Wir werden Kreaturen wie ihn nicht dulden.
That moment marked his life. The boy who wanted to be like his friends realized his country did not see him as one of its own. Even though he spoke German, loved his neighborhood, and loved his nation, his skin condemned him to exclusion. Hans grew up under the Third Reich as a constant anomaly. He was not deported or sent to a camp, but he endured the humiliation of being monitored and marginalized. He was denied a full education. Doors were closed to him, and every day he was reminded that his existence was an error in the eyes of the dominant ideology.
Oh ja, also dann habe ich ja dann bald herausgekriegt, dass mich die Nazis nicht wollten. Und das wurde mir dann ja immer mehr klar gemacht. Du gehörst nicht zu uns, wir wollen dich nicht. Für mich war das, wie gesagt, eine laufende Entwicklung. Es wurde immer schlimmer. Zuerst wurde mir die Hitlerjugend verweigert. Okay. Dann wurde mir gesagt, dass ich nicht auf die höhere Schule.
Yet despite it all, he survived. Over time, Hans emigrated to the United States. There he served in the army, studied journalism, and became a respected editor at Ebony magazine, a key publication in African American culture. But his personal story was not forgotten. He told it decades later in a moving book, Destined to Witness. In its pages, he reconstructed his childhood under the Nazi regime, not from hatred, but from lucid memory. He showed how a child could long to belong to the very system that rejected him and even threatened him without hesitation.
Dann ungefähr 10 Jahre alt, nahm mich dann dieser Lehrer zur Seite und sagte, du, wenn wir mit den Juden fertig sind, dann kommst du dran. Das war eine direkte Drohung. Und ich konnte mir, weil ich nicht genau wusste, was es bedeutete, dann kommst du dran. Ich wusste nur, dass es nichts Gutes für mich.
In doing so, Hans Massaquoi proved he was not an anonymous victim. He became a crack in the official narrative of Nazism. He revealed how racism could infiltrate everyday life, even without direct physical violence, and how those never sent to camps still lived under the crushing weight of systematic exclusion. It was further proof that the obsession with purity not only destroyed entire peoples, but also scarred those who only wished to be children in their own homeland. But there were other innocent boys who faced even harsher trials, like Gert Schramm. When the Gestapo knocked on his door on May 6, 1944, he was just 15. Gert was arrested in the city of Bad Langensalza in central Germany, despite having committed no crimes. He did not conspire against the Führer or belong to any underground group. His only offense in the eyes of the regime was the color of his skin. On his prisoner card, issued upon arrival at Buchenwald concentration camp, the official reason for his detention was recorded with chilling bureaucracy. Politisch. Negermischling erster Grades. The first word, political, was a catch-all term the SS used to imprison anyone deemed undesirable. But the second part revealed far more. Negermischling of the first degree was an insulting, pseudo-scientific label for someone with one black parent. It was racism codified, normalized, and sealed in official documents. And in the Third Reich, ink could be as deadly as a weapon. Gert's number at Buchenwald was 49489. With that number on his uniform, he lost his name, his identity, and his childhood. He was sent to forced labor, condemned to hunger, cold, and fear, a fate shared by all young people in his situation.
You are in my bunk.
Oh, hush, Negro.
You think you are better than me?
Spare your energy.
You are only lucky you're not in the rat house over there
You
like...
think I am Jewish? All I want is to sleep near my sister. But an African savage like you wouldn't understand. You would eat your own mother to keep alive.
Buchenwald was not an extermination camp like Auschwitz, but neither was it a place of survival. Thousands died there of exhaustion, torture, medical experiments, or arbitrary executions. That was why Gert had to learn to stay silent, to endure, and to become invisible. Life in the camp scarred him forever. He witnessed systematic dehumanization, indifference to suffering, and the way racism turned into machinery of control and death. But he also discovered his own strength. Against all odds, he survived. When the Allies liberated Buchenwald in April 1945, he emerged alive and chose to speak. Unlike many who chose silence as a means of emotional survival, Gert became one of the most active voices of remembrance. For decades, he traveled to schools, universities, and cultural centers across Germany, telling his story again and again. He did not seek revenge, only truth. Still, while the stories of Gert Schramm and Hans Massaquoi endured because they spoke out, Thousands of names were lost to oblivion. Many did not live to tell, and others spent years before finding the strength to speak of their exclusion.
A note was sent home to my mother, telling her that we were no longer allowed to participate in any, sport events or at the swimming and other sports. That was no longer. It's just like, it was handled like the Jewish people.
How did your mother respond to it?
She just had to accept it. She said, what can I say? I can't fight them. I can't go against it.
It was true. Anyone who dared to defy the regime risked the harshest reprisals. During the Third Reich, hundreds of Afro-Germans vanished from official records. With Nazism, the extermination of the black race became state policy, inspired by the genocide Germany had carried out earlier in Africa. The campaign of extermination against the Herero and Nama peoples was an unprecedented massacre, one Hitler perfected decades later on European soil. And had the Allies not arrived in time, history could have ended very differently.
The Allied military moved so quickly toward the end of the war that they caught many of the Nazi executioners by surprise, and they were just not able to put the finishing touches on their extermination programs. And the plan was definitely to get rid of all non-Aryans. And I would have, if the war had lasted longer or Hitler had won the war, I definitely wouldn't be sitting here right now.
Until the very end of the war, the Third Reich upheld its ideology of racial supremacy, casting all Afro-Germans into the shadows, fearful for their lives. There was only one exception during Hitler's reign, when a black man defied Nazi propaganda before the entire world. Jesse Owens. He was a young man from Alabama, grandson of slaves and a second-class citizen in his own country. Black, slim, and as fast as lightning. Wearing the colors of the United States, he silenced the crowd at Berlin's Olympic Stadium during the 1936 Games. According to Nazi logic, the strong, towering Aryan athletes were supposed to dominate the competition. But this young man shattered that myth in just a few days. He won gold in the 100 meters, then the 200 meters, after that, the long jump, and finally, the 4x100 relay. 4 golds, 4 humiliations for the Reich. The impact was devastating. To the outside world, Owens became a symbol of dignity and resistance, living proof that talent and courage knew no race or ideology. For Afro-Germans, hidden, persecuted, silenced, he was a spark of hope. Many later said that seeing him triumph in Berlin felt like a whisper of justice in the middle of the storm. Yet even in his own country, he was not treated as a hero. Back in the United States, Jesse Owens returned to segregation. He was not welcomed at the White House. There was no parade, only fleeting glory, quickly erased by American racism. Although the young man from Alabama outran the lie of Aryan supremacy, discrimination sustained hatred until the very end of the Third Reich, as victims continued to accumulate until the war's close. Each Afro-German life scarred by Nazism shows how far an ideology built on contempt and racial hierarchy can go. Their stories, often silenced or pushed to the margins, remain uncomfortable but necessary reminders that racism was not only a tool of the Third Reich, but a pillar of its machinery of exclusion. They survived without belonging, resisted in the shadows, and today, thanks to their voices, we can recover a memory that must never forget those who, by their very existence, defied hatred with humanity. And so, we reach the end. If you enjoyed this video, join us next time as we continue exploring military history.